Hey guys, it's Charlie. So I found this disgustingly written passage in Aristotle, and just look at this. Look at the footnote. Smells like energy quantization. So today we're going to figure out: is it realistic to say that Aristotle predicted energy quantization 2,300 years before Einstein and everybody else thought about it? All right, so let's get started. Those of you that are new to this channel, the stupid catchphrase that I thought of is like less videography, more thoughts. So I have another channel where I'm pulling out all the stops on videography. This one's just about putting cool ideas out there as soon as possible. Okay, here's how this is going to break down. First, we're going to read this relatively disgusting Aristotle quote. Then, we are going to talk about what quantization of energy is in the first place, in case you don't know. And then, we're going to talk about how we're going to break this quote down, and we're going to see, is it possible that Aristotle actually predicted quantization of energy 2,200 years before we figured it out? And finally, we're going to make the case, we're going to answer the question of whether or not it's fair that he actually made that prediction, and think about whether or not, what does that matter for, like, why should we even care about this in the first place? So, here we go. Brace yourselves. Resuming our main argument, we proceed from the positions that there must be continuous motion in the world of things, that this is single motion, and that a single motion must be a motion of magnitude, for that which is without magnitude cannot be in motion, and that the magnitude must be a single magnitude moved by a single movement, for otherwise there will not be continuous motion, but a consecutive series of separate motions. We're going to come back to that and we're going to break it down, but the first thing that we need is, what is energy quantization? In 1900, Max Planck first discovered the black-body radiation curve. In 1905, Einstein predicted the Einstein wrote a paper finally understanding the photoelectric effect in terms of the quantization of energy of photons. And then in 1914, Millikan did an experiment with oil drops, finally measuring the quantized charge of the electron. All of these experiments together came to be called the foundations of quantum mechanics, because they talk about how energy and matter are quantized. That is, they only come in discrete chunks. In our Newtonian intuitions, some things can be just broken up and changed. Like I can have a glass of water. I can have a tenth of a glass of water. I can have a 100th of a glass of water. I can have a 75th. There seems to be no theoretical limitation on how we can break up the world around us. Quantum mechanics actually breaks this picture down a little bit, and it actually shows us that on a lower level, there are actually limitations on the exact discrete values that things can have. You can get this in your brain if you think about the molecular structure of water. I could pour that little bit of water into 150 different glasses, but eventually I would get down to the point where I had a single molecule of oxygen and 2 hydrogens. And if I tried to pour that, I would have to break it and it wouldn't be water anymore. An analogy for this that's a little bit ridiculous is, imagine a soccer dad has 3 kids, and they have practice in 2 different locations. You can have 2 kids at one location and 1 kid at the other, or all 3 at one, and he can drive all 3 to one and then drive 1 to another, but it doesn't make any sense to say that he'll leave 1.5 kids at one location and 1.5 kids at the other location. Kids don't come in halves. Neither does energy, neither does matter. You're never going to see half of an electron anywhere. But can we see this in this disgusting paragraph in Aristotle from 2,300 years ago? I think we can. So let's break it down. He talks at first about magnitude. Single motion must be a motion of magnitude, for that which is without magnitude cannot be in motion. Great. You have to have a magnitude of motion, an amount of motion, otherwise you're not in motion. Fine, not a big deal. And here's where it starts to get interesting. And that the magnitude must be a single magnitude, moved by a single movement. Okay, we're close, and I really want to explain this. I think we got it. So there's an electron flying through space, just zipping along. If nothing interacts with that electron, since there's no friction in space, it's just going to continue just forever at its speed that it's going at. For it to change motions, it would have to bounce off of a photon or another electron or something. And you can imagine that that motion would look like this. It would be going through space, and then it would go the other way, go the other way, go the other way, and then maybe speed up. It would have all these different chaotic parts of its motion. It would not have a continuous motion, but rather a consecutive series of separate motions. That's what I think Aristotle's getting at. Motion, if you can think about it, it doesn't occur. You don't have smooth acceleration because all you have is bodies that are moving interacting with other bodies that are moving. And so if something's moving, and then it gets hit by something else, it's going to start going faster. But it's going to be a quick, discrete transition from one separate motion to another type of motion. For otherwise, there will not be continuous motion, but a consecutive series of separate motions. And that's what I thought was super cool when I was looking at this text. So let's take a step back and let's say, is it actually fair to claim that Aristotle predicted, I'll use that word precisely, that Aristotle predicted the quantization of energy? I think there's a long answer and a short answer, and the long answer is no, and the short answer is no. He didn't make any empirical predictions. He made philosophical predictions about the unmoved mover at the beginning of time, but there was no experiment that you could do to test whether or not motion was single or motion was multiple. So while like it's a little bit sad to be like, oh dang, like he didn't really do it, there's actually another takeaway that I think is interesting. I don't feel like I'm very good at history, and I feel like a lot of Americans also don't feel like they're particularly good at history. And when I think of like old historical figures, I see this. I see like black and white people who are so far removed from me intellectually, emotionally. I can't connect with them at all. And part of the reason that I wanted to make this video is one, I think it's cool that like you can make the case if you wanted that Aristotle did predict this, but he didn't because he wasn't really doing science, so that matters. But the reason that I think it's cool is because despite the fact that this man spoke a different language, lived in a different culture, and lived every day of his life in black and white, which must have been sad. When I look at stuff like this, I think despite my lack of ability to understand how interesting history really is, 100 years ago, Einstein, Bohr, Planck, Millikan were thinking about the quantization of energy and what it meant. Right now, we're thinking about the quantization of energy and what it means. And 2,300 years ago, Aristotle was thinking about the quantization of energy and what it means. And I think it's kind of cool that we can sit around and read a book from so long ago and know that despite the fact that we don't know exactly how they felt and exactly what it was like, they were thinking about some of the exact same things that we are thinking about right now. I think that's awesome. I think that's worth a lot of time. I just think that's great. Hey, so I hope you enjoyed. Thanks for watching. If you didn't, it was fun to make and I learned some stuff. I am in the middle of on the tail end of a massive reorganization of Headspace around YouTube and why I'm doing it and what it means and all that jazz. I have a video basically made about that already that's gonna go live real soon. But in the meantime, check out my Instagram. There's these artificial intelligences called neural networks that are used for bananas number of things, but there's one that's been developed, many that do artistic style transfer, and so you can take an image and you can paint someone else's artistic style on top of the image. Here's an example of one from 2 Minute Papers channel. That's an awesome channel, check it out. But there's I've been using it rather than doing artistic style transfers. I've actually been taking images from Hubble telescope and mapping them onto things. So this is an image of a water glass, the candle, the light refracting through water and glass, and then it's combined with a Hubble telescope image of space. So you're seeing light mediated through water and glass, mediated through artificial intelligence, and I'm having fun playing with like different layers of meaning, of smashing together different images. All right, that next video is coming soon, and thanks for watching. Hit like, hit subscribe, the buttons.